What's up, everybody? It's your boy Sad Nixon coming at you with yet another tournament analysis. We're doing Secret Hitler Tournament number 12 today. And yeah, let's get right into it. Just like last time, we have a whole bunch of measures that we can look at the players in terms of. We can look at our reset ELO, which is the ELO that a player had upon ELO reset if they were around for that. We have maximum ELO, which is the maximum ELO that they've had since reset. We have current ELO. We have overall max ELO, which is just the maximum of these three numbers. And we have Glicko, which is, of course, my personal measure, which is created using only the tournament records of each player. And that comes attached with it a RD number, which is sort of a measure of how sure each rating is, and the smaller the number is, the more sure that rating is. And I've also calculated the difference between each player's draft order and their performance in terms of sort of the MVP ratings and how many points they got. So yeah, let's get right into it. Let's take a look. So it's always kind of cool to see which players are the highest in each measure. So for reset ELO for this tournament, of course, we have Pingu on top, followed by Carl, Andrew, some people like that. Let's check out maximum ELO. So this is, remember, maximum ELO since reset, and the highest is actually Hemi up here, followed by Pingu yet again. And then we have Mello and Carl and Ollie. Yeah, sounds about right. Some good 2Ks up in here. For current ELO, the current highest ELO player in tourney was Ollie, followed by Medusa. That's interesting. And Skate and Mellow and Artsy. For overall maximum, of course, we have Pingu right back there on top again. Those reset ELO numbers are a bit campy, I think. Some people had sort of really high numbers they were camping at before reset. And for Glicko, interesting, we actually have hyperbole. Now, this is pre-tourney Glicko, right? So this is before whatever happened in tourney. Hyperbole was on top in terms of raw Glicko, followed by Dr. 3, Kexi, Artsy, all up there in the 1700s. Reminder, one of the differences between my Glicko and the ELO ratings is for Glicko, the starting value was 1500 instead of the 1600 for ELOs. That's why these numbers are a little bit lower. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to see what a lot of people really want to see, which is the players that had the biggest and smallest differences between their draft order and the order in their MVP placements. So let's take a look first at the players that were underdrafted that really overperformed their draft. And here we are. And so as we look at the top with a difference of 44 placements between their draft order, which was 48th, and their point order, which was 4 amongst the players who could be drafted. We have ABM Treaty, and that was a massive performance by ABM Treaty with 20 personal points, very big there. In second place here, we have Delta, and then we have Anna in third. And yeah, for all these players, really massive overperformance, 41 places for Delta there, 39 places for Anna. Yeah, really big, although obviously not quite as impressive a personal score as ABM Treaty here. Yeah, really good tourney. Oh, look, there I am. There's me, overperforming by 31 places. Let's go. Nice. Yeah, some really good performances here by all these players. Okay, let's take a look next at the players who sort of performed right around their draft level. That's also interesting to see. And yeah, who do we have at the middle? Yeah, so right here in the middle, we have Kexi, Dev, and Skinny Josh. Oh, that's interesting. So Kex and Dev both sort of very high round drafts, but Josh a very low draft. But all of them performed right around their expected level in terms of their MVP placement. In fact, Kex and Dev were spot on, 0 points away. Of course, it's very hard to overperform when you're drafted that high, but they certainly met expectations, I would say. So great job to y'all. Andrew also around here, Tom around here, Artsy, yeah, some other high round draft picks. And let's look at the players who unfortunately were maybe a bit overdrafted that did not perform quite up to their draft expectation. Oh dear, and we have, of course, Mosby on the top. Uh, yeah, went 0 for 5, unfortunately, and so was sort of the very last in terms of the points order, the MVP order, and was drafted 22nd. So that is a difference of 62 draft placements. Yeah, we have the me man out here. Ooh, bad tourney for the Brits. Oh well. Oh well. Yeah. But yeah, some other good players around here. Obviously, a tourney is a very low sample size, so anyone can have an underperformance very easily. I think last tourney, Mick here had a big overperformance. So, it always depends. Yeah, let's move right along. This is kind of a fun draft to see. This shows the relationship between draft order and personal score and how that sort of makes a nice correlation there for a number of reasons. And I've labeled here some outliers. Oh, and there's ABM Treaty way up there, high above the line, big overperformance there. So, yeah, just a fun, colorful draft here. And I also like to look at, of course, the correlation between all our different measures and the personal score to see what would have been sort of the most predictive. And if you were drafting, what would you have wanted to look at in terms of these measurements? And of course, I'm also only looking for uh, when this score exists for a player. So for the reset elo, I'm only looking for players that have a reset elo when I'm looking for this correlation. But it turns out that reset elo is actually relatively pretty correlated with personal score in this tourney, with a correlation of 0.43. So, in comparison to some of these numbers, that's pretty high. It's pretty high up there. Almost half of the score that you get could be explained by this reset elo if you have one. And that's a pretty low p value. So, pretty significant potentially. For maximum elo, the correlation is lower, only 0.29. For current elo, the correlation is also lower, 0.22. Of course, a lot of variance here, and the significance of this is lower. But that's interesting that current elo was less predictive than reset elo in terms of this tourney. Might just be a statistical outlier. Who knows? But I also looked at players whose current elo is not 1600, which basically just means that they've actually played some games since the reset, and the correlation is a little bit better, but not that much better. Only by like 0.01. You know, so interesting to see. Overall maximum elo also a correlation of only 0.33, so it does better than any of these measurements, but not as good as raw reset elo. Of course, all the players have an overall max elo. I do think that this you would expect it to not be super representative, just because someone's maximum elo is not going to be probably representative of their true skill. And for Glicko, actually had a pretty good performance for Glicko this tourney. It was correlated at 0.33, almost 0.34, with pretty good p-value. So that would actually make it more predictive than any of the sort of current elo measurements, post elo or post reset elo measurements, although not as predictive as reset elo in this case. So maybe Glicko is sort of getting locked in as more tourneys are played. Cool to see. And if you restrict that to players that just have an RD of below 200, which basically means players for whom Glicko is more sure of their rating, the correlation goes a little bit up to 0.336. So that's pretty cool to see as well. Of course, if we look at correlation between the draft order and the personal score, the correlation is very strong, negative 0.59. So that basically means that the lower your draft order is, which means the higher you were drafted, sort of counterintuitively, the more points you're going to get. And your draft order explains a lot about how much points you're going to get. Almost 0.6 is pretty strong with a very, very low p-value here. Yeah. You can also check out which teams had sort of the highest and lowest reset elo on average. So then if we look at that, we see that, of course, Big Pingers has the highest average reset elo. Definitely getting carried by Pingu himself there. And In Cahoots is actually kind of low on this, which is interesting considering that they won and reset elo was pretty predictive. But of course, not every player has reset elo, so have to take that into consideration. Of course, I have my classic charts showing the distribution of personal scores. And yeah, we see here a lot of players down this range, but some outliers. That looks pretty typical. Here's our distribution for reset elo. And of course, we see our classic camping at 2K spike. Not what you would hope to see from an elo distribution. But it turns out that this was predictive, so interesting. We have here maximum elo. Some interesting sort of peaks here. Yeah, a lot of people at 1600, so that would be people who haven't really played. Of course, no one can be below 1600 for max elo. That's just how max elo works. And yeah, for current elo, we have a little bit of a better distribution. Looks like a little bit of a camping effect above 1700, maybe. Interesting. And yeah, for overall max elo, we're carrying over that 2K camping, but maybe a little bit more balanced of a distribution. Oh, there's Pingu. And here is Glicko. Interesting. Very interesting. We're kind of skewed to the other side compared to all these other charts, I think. Cool. Very pretty charts. Love my charts. And here's the chart of the difference numbers, difference between draft order and MVP order. Nice. And of course, we always take a look and see how did trades affect the situation. Always kind of fun to look at. In this case, we only had one trade that was made, and it did not affect the standings. It would have made Final Warning do a little bit better if the trade had not happened. So I guess we got the short end of the stick on that trade, but didn't change any of the rankings between the teams. So, not that impactful overall. Sometimes it does change the rankings. This time, it did not. So, yeah, that's my analysis. I will see you next tournament. It's your boy Sad Nixon signing off, and I'll see you later.